The People's Countryside
The
Environmental
People's Countryside
Debate
Environmental Debate Podcast. The
People's Countryside Environmental Debate Podcast.
People's Countryside Environmental Debate Podcast.
People's Countryside Environmental Debate Podcast.
Your question is, does gun ownership lead to mass shootings and does religion cause wars? Do you think it's worthwhile engaging with that which we don't like?
This is the People's Countryside Environmental Debate Podcast with
me, William Mankelow, and you,
Stuart the Wildman Mabbutt. You, the listeners, send in questions and we try and talk about them. We don't see them before we press record, so we have no idea what's going to be presented to us. And we're not the go-to experts, we're the go-to guys who are willing to explore things cold and just expose ourselves to the unknown. I've had people on the radio show saying, I don't want to come on because I want to know exactly what you're going to ask me. Good conversation just happens and evolves.
It does, and we have 2 listener questions per episode,
yep.
And we always explore them from as long as they need to be explored.
Yep.
Our episodes range from something like 8 minutes, 9 minutes long to 45 minutes. I think the longest we've ever had is about an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Way back in the day.
So we got questions from Kholoud,
yeah.
Who's a Palestinian refugee living in Long Eaton, England. And we've got Andrew from Barrow in Alaska. Good to have you both back. Having a quick look at Kholoud's question. We've sort of discussed this in a couple of episodes ago, but let's look at it again. What's the question?
Yeah, Kholoud, thank you very much for your question. Your question is, does gun ownership lead to mass shootings and does religion cause wars?
No, looking back, the question we looked at this on was Kholoud's question, which we covered on the 25th of January. His question then was, should an individual be considered anti-Semitic just by disagreeing with the Israeli state? And we moved into guns causing mass shootings and religion causing wars in that. But let's look at it again. What do you think?
Does gun ownership lead to mass shootings? Yes, it does. Then there are other factors at play. But if you didn't have a gun, there wouldn't be any mass shootings.
Okay, and religion. When we spoke about this before, you said you'd not heard people say, religion causes wars.
What, myself?
Yeah, I think that's what you said in the previous episode, that you'd not heard that religion causes wars. I think that's what you said. But anyway,
I would say it would be the opposite. Absolutely, religion. The religion has caused wars all the time. It causes.
I disagree with this. Go on. Yeah.
It causes. Well, it gives an excuse.
Oh, exactly. Now we agree. Yeah, it's an excuse for the human race to go to war.
It gives an excuse because
if it wasn't that, it would be something else.
The very foundation of any religion that I'm aware of is peace and understanding. If you look at how the teachings of Christianity, for example, because that's the one I'm most aware of, being raised in a mostly Christian country.
I know some people say the Islam encourages people being killed, but I've not read any of this, so I don't know. This is what some people are told, so I don't know. But yeah, generally religion is considered a peaceful pastime. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is used as an excuse. You can look at how and really, I think it comes more down to politics and down to resources. But religion is seen as the dividing line.
Okay, so it's interesting to maybe look at this, what we say here, and then look at that episode back in January to see if our opinions changed. I still think we're on a different side of the argument, William, but let's look at this one. Does gun ownership lead to mass shootings? I think it can do, but if it wasn't guns, it would be something else. It would be another weapon. And what coming? I don't think I said this in the last episode, but what's coming up in my mind now? You know the author Chekhov, Russian author.
Yeah, I know of him.
Didn't know him personally.
No.
There was a quote often, or I'm not probably massacring this quote, but there's a quote that's often sent towards him that he said something along the lines, if there's a gun on the table, at some point somebody's going to shoot it. And what he was meaning in that is, if you're writing a book and you mention in the narrative of writing this book, you're describing the room and then you're saying there's a gun on the table, you're sort of setting up the story so it's sort of, the reader is expecting at some point someone's going to pick that gun up and fire it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't introduce it unless you're going to fire it. Like, say, if there's a gun on the table, somebody will fire it. That's what he's talking about. As an author, you don't introduce something and then don't refer to it again.
Mm-hmm.
With guns ownership, and we were talking about in the previous one about ease of access to in America to buy weapons.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't think it has to lead, but it doesn't give an excuse for it not to lead to mass shootings. But if guns didn't exist, other weapons would. So it's still down to the individual picking up the weapon. Now, generally, very few guns have been fired unless just before they've been fired, there's been a conscious decision by the gun holder to fire that gun. There is a decision. We can't divorce ourselves from this. We may have a gun in our hand, but we don't have to fire it. It's our choice. So, gun ownership, it can lead to somebody firing it, but it doesn't have to. And I think we have to. This might be a utopian ideal, but surely there's an opportunity for everybody to own a gun, but nobody firing it, because if you take this momentary choice, I want to fire this gun, you take that out of it, nobody's going to fire a gun. So
it is a utopian idea.
It is a utopian ideal, but it is something we can strive for. I really do believe that.
I would like to think we could strive for it.
But by not striving for it because it's impossible, it is encouraging it.
Yes,
but they exist.
But I would counter that by saying that we are an impulsive species.
Okay.
And I think I seem to remember we were talking specifically. And when you think about mass shootings, I think about mass shootings, I should say, my mind automatically thinks about the United States.
Yeah, but it's happening all over.
But
Sweden had one a while back, didn't they?
Yeah, but not to the level and not
as common.
Not as common, because mass shootings are happening on a regular basis, and far more than we are actually even aware of, because they have to make the news in the UK.
But isn't that as much about mindset?
I think it's culture.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the gun, because if the guns were...
But it is also the gun. Because you said...
Yeah, but the knives are in every drawer.
Yes, but hold on a minute. You can't throw... You can only have one knife in your hand at any one point. You have to actually be in close proximity to somebody to actually cause a harm. Whereas with an automatic rifle, you can kill hundreds, if not thousands, of people within minutes. Mm. That's the problem with it. It's the industrial level of, or the industrial level of that weapon. That's the problem with mass shootings, with guns, is that the impulsivity, the culture of guns, because it does happen a lot in the United States, and it's definitely because of the culture, and people try to use,
the previous 250 years.
Yeah, people try to use the constitutional right to bear arms as an excuse. I think now I'm thinking about it, that's akin to religion, using religion as an excuse. But it's so ingrained in the culture.
Yeah, as I say, I think I've said this on that other episode, that when you look at the cowboy films on telly, you know, everybody had guns. Yep. And it was just sort of like, that's where the right to bear arms comes from. And you can understand that if everybody else is. But I still really struggle with this humanity not taking responsibility for its conscious involvement in this, because if it...
Well, okay, let me give an example of what happens in some states in the US. It is legal to carry a concealed weapon. You don't have to actually, and I think if I'm right in saying that you can actually have unregistered weapons. You don't have to register them.
Yep.
But let's go with the concealed weapon. Now you're having a confrontation with somebody. You don't know whether they've got a gun or not, and if it escalates to a point of violence, what are you going to do? If you had a gun on you, impulsively you might shoot them. Now that is impulse, isn't it? You can decide to do that, but because you think the person might have a gun, it's almost like it's very similar to the knife culture in the UK.
Couldn't it be reverse engineered, and when these things are escalating, get a de-escalation policy in place in your own head?
Yeah, but that's down to the individual.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. This is all made up of individuals as a group having access and holding it, but we should never take the individual decision making.
Absolutely. I think we should take the individual decision making away. Why do we have? I'll ask you a question. The individual decision making about firing that gun. If you've got that gun in your hand, we should not take away the individual's involvement in the process of firing that gun. It's not the gun that's fired itself. You're in there as well. You know. Yeah, you're making that decision.
Yeah, so I'm not saying you don't take the decision away from owning the gun. I'm saying in the process of that gun being fired and people being killed, there is a human involvement in that. So there is a personal responsibility. Otherwise, you wouldn't put them in prison.
Yes, and we are definitely concentrating on half of the question here, because the other half is...
But the religion side, I think it's exactly the same thing. It's an excuse. I do never, ever, 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 ever have I seen a religious argument of two people, especially in my own home. I've seen it over the years. Different people, different religious people have come and gone in my life, and they've met each other. There's been some really aggressive religious arguments. Some people would say the religion caused that argument. Every single time I would say all of those situations were caused by people choosing to argue about religion. Religion is just there. If it wasn't religion, it'd be something else. It is those two individual people's decision to argue about something on that day. We should ban religion because it causes wars. So a lot of time, as atheists will say that. Well, I would argue then, equally, atheism causes wars because you're not allowing people who are religious to exist or have their view. And so every religious argument I've ever seen in my own home is being caused by two people wanting a fucking argument.
You could almost argue that Christianity, for example, and again, I'm only raising this because I'm not saying it's the best religion, but it's the one I'm most familiar with. You could actually say that Christianity actually has led to these beliefs of, fairness and that type of thing that actually is in an atheist.
Yeah,
I've seen that argument put forward before.
Yeah, and my opinion, my atheism is my own thoughts. No, it's not. It's not. We don't have our own thoughts. All our thoughts are influences by everything that's gone on before. You know, if you think you're sat there now having an individual thought that's autonomous to you, you're in doodah land. You know, I have to say. I mean, I sit there and we don't do anything. You know, marketing people understand that. We don't make individual decisions. We're influenced by it. You know, so I don't think religion causes wars. It's
just another excuse.
It's an excuse. When humans get involved, then the decision is made to go to war. When the guns are there, if the humans aren't involved, they're just guns. And then you have to have the human decision-making factor in there as well. Now, things existing, concepts, guns, objects, or whatever existing, can allow the bad bits of humanity to come out, but you can't totally remove the human decision away from that. So I'll go back to Chekhov's thing. If there's a gun in the room, gun on the table, someone's going to fire it. So we have to allow these things exist. So how can they exist without mass shootings occurring? So I don't think.
But if you take that that idea, you could actually say the gun is in a locked box. So then somebody has to unlock the box to actually fire the gun.
It gives you a pause moment.
Yeah, I was gonna liken it to, I'll ask the question: why are there speed limits on the road?
To piss people off.
But really, why are speed limits on the road?
Yeah. Well, often they're there to regulate a mass volume of traffic, because you see this on the M25 going around London, the circular roundabout. There's no traffic jam. If everybody travels at the same speed,
Yes.
there's less concertinaing. So somebody brakes hard, so everybody behind is going to brake hard, and then after about 5 minutes, that's a traffic jam.
Exactly, but
It's
the reason
regulate.
but the speed limits are there to as a restriction, and if somebody then goes over that restriction, they will, and they're caught.
There's a consequence.
There's a consequence to it. Yeah. So that they should. That's, you're looking at a restriction. That's what the gun in the box analogy would. That's how that would work.
So does gun ownership and lead to mass shootings, and does religion cause wars? On their own, no. The human influence has to be in there as well, and the human influence is stronger for me than it probably is for you, William. But anyway, what's the next question?
That's the second question of this episode.
No, that's the first question. Does gun ownership?
Oh no, I'm guessing.
Yep, you got Andrew from Barrow.
Second question is from Andrew in Barrow in Alaska. I said before, I think the last time we answered this question, there's more than one Barrow in this world. There is one, I believe there's one in Northern Ireland as well.
Go on.
There's one in North Wales, and there's also one in Alaska. Andrew's question.
Are you thinking about Bangor?
I am thinking about Bangor, yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew in Barrow, Alaska. Do you think it's worthwhile engaging with that which we don't like? Absolutely, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because your biases are there, your dislikes are there, and you might actually like it.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth, over and above engaging with that which you don't like, is if you're not engaging with something you don't like, what's the process of that? Why are you making that decision?
Yeah.
Why are you not engaging with something you don't like? Because I know some people who will whatever gets presented to them, oh, I don't like that, and then they've never even thought of it. They're just in the habit of, I don't like it. It could be food, it could be an experience, it could be whatever. But what they don't see is the brain dead behaviour of, well, I'm just firing out these options out there, knowing full well that you're going to always say, oh, I don't like that, and then trick you, like saying, oh, do you like Manchester United? No, I don't. Oh, actually, shit, I do. You know what I mean? And I'm puppeteering with people when I do that.
You can start to get contradictions in somebody's viewpoint from that conversation.
So yeah, it's always worthwhile engaging with that which you don't like, because to make sure what you don't like is consistent. It's like comedians I don't like. I often will sit and watch and analyse what it is about them I don't like. Political conversation on the telly, I will often watch that because I don't like it, but I'm trying to work out. And almost always comes back to the fact that what I'm not liking is when somebody's not being genuine and honest. It's what they're saying is staged and scripted. When you do work in radio, you hear it a lot, the way people breathe and the way they use tone. You
were at a networking event very recently, and you said that exact thing, that it was, you could tell the people that were staged and were reading almost like off a script.
Yeah. And when you're listening to people on editing audio and conversation, you can hear the genuine stuff. So the reason I don't like certain comedians, or I don't like certain politicians, is generally down to the fact I don't think they're believable. Then secondary to that, I might still not like what they stand for, but that's a different thing. But I do like to engage with stuff I don't like, because I just think you get an opportunity to learn about yourself.
I recall a conversation I had with a friend of mine last year. We were talking about music, and there was a particular genre of music that I said, "Oh, I just don't like it. I just don't get it. I don't like any of it." And she vehemently came back to me and said, "Well, that's a very sweeping statement that you've just made about a whole genre of music. How much have you listened to it?" And I'm like, good point. So then I went back and listened. I listened to a few artists within the genre, and I'm like, actually, yeah, you're right. I don't dislike all of it. There's some that I can listen to. I enjoy.
Yeah, it's like jazz. We're talking about music. I really don't like jazz, but I really do struggle to listen to it. But I listen to it enough to keep understanding what it is I don't like. And for me, it doesn't. It's very impulsive music. It's improvised and jamming. They jam a lot. Whereas for me, I like something that flows and builds into something.
Jazz.
And it's just understanding my taste as opposed to that type of music shite. I mean, it's not shite. It just doesn't do anything for me.
You can still listen. You still listen to it, but it tells you that you still don't like it.
Yeah. Just Bodger Brown. He was a big jazz musician, and he always used to invite me when I lived up north to go to some of his jazz nights, and I said, "I like your Bodger," but I said, no thanks. It's just like schizophrenia on drums. It's just random consciousness, and they're all playing the same tune but in a completely different order.
Yeah,
and it's just sort of like,
it does remind me of blues as well. The sort of the very expressive or improvisational blues. I think they come from the same root, don't they? Jazz and blues.
Yeah, bluegrass and all that, country and western stuff, all roughly.
I'm sure
from the working class areas.
I'm sure I'll ruffle a few feathers when I say I really don't get Led Zeppelin, for example. But I did give them a chance.
Yeah, so I think it's always worthwhile engaging with that which you don't like. If you don't like this podcast, thanks for engaging with us.